Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting match of Jet Set Radio Future Bingo. As always, I'm your pre-recorded announcer, Acebats OS, printing Ecla Please Dungeoneer with me since January 2022. Today we have two players out to battle it out to win this round of the bingo. In the Navy corner we have a pile of reanimated flesh who eats spicy goodness like a boss. It's Acebats. And in the yellow corner we have the Season 3 MVP who also happens to have discovered Sewer Skip. It's Nago. And now our commentators, the duo that thought a soldier without any legs was an entire army. It's Eclapricious and Ryomi.
Welcome back to JSRF Bingo, everybody. Today's match between Nago and Acebats in the EU group for sole control of first place as it stands right now. As you can see on the standings, Bats, Krabby, and Nago all 1-0 with 2-0 game scores. So these head-to-heads are going to be really important in deciding who comes out on top. Remember, first place is a bye into the semi-finals of playoffs. Excuse me. And also, for the first time on commentary this season, Ryomi, hello.
Hey, what's up?
I'm doing pretty well. Glad to have you. Curious to hear your insight on what it should be a really interesting match. Both players, I think, had a pretty straightforward start to the season with 2-0 wins. This should be an interesting litmus test for like the real power rankings in this group. Especially with Krabby yet to play both of these players as well. I think it's going to be really interesting between this top three. Let me take a peek at the board if our players are ready. Looks like they are. Aha. Okay, so we've got ourselves a pretty evenly spread board this time. With 99th and Sewers Graffiti, long roots.
That's depressing. I don't like those.
Yeah, well, Graffiti hasn't been like a massive priority so far this season. It's come down to the longer matches, I think, where Graffiti has been really important. Even the fast Graffiti routes don't get too much priority. So this time I'd be surprised to see either of these taken before like the last couple of squares on the board. If the game hasn't been decided at that point, then I suppose it will be important. But we do have the classic Shibuya Kabi on the board.
Yeah,
Honestly,
row 2
pretty
and
much
column 2
everything.
are definitely pretty good
Yeah, you've
bingos.
got some fast defaults. You got um, column 2 does have Sua's Graffiti on it, but then also it has a Sua Soul and 2 bottom point souls. So you're going to be in that area, I suppose. So it's not too
Yeah,
bad. And Sua's it's a challenging route, but it's not long. It's
it's
not
kind of
that long.
straightforward.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some tricky movement involved that speeds it up quite a lot. And we'll see how confident our players are with that. But yeah, we've got not a lot in Shibuya Cho, but also what is there is pretty good. You've got Writer Street, you've got Cubby, Chuo Air 4, Shibuya Tricks, Dogen Air 3. These are all pretty quick souls to pick up early. So we might see them head off to those areas at the start of the match, and then I really think it's anyone's game in terms of where they go from there. We've seen some games where our players have gone right head to head and have contested everything. We've had some games where they've kind of split the map and just tried to pick up points in areas that they're comfortable with. But what's cool about this is that we have two players who are quite confident in Kogane and quite a lot of good Kogane stuff on the board. So should be exciting to see them go head to head in that area if that happens.
Yeah, this board is pretty balanced.
All right, so looks like our players are ready to get started. Yeah, I think Shibuya Kabi is always an interesting square to start off a game because there are these mind games that go on with it. Is my opponent going to go for it? Should I go for it? If my opponent is going for it, what can I do in response to that? And it looks like Acebats is just immediately heading out to Kogane, while Nago will be heading into Shibuya Cho, into Shibuya Terminal for the first square of the game. See the boostless bus jump.
Let's go.
Just that easy. And there it is. Shibuya Kabi picked up. So yeah, it looks like Nago is going to go for the quick, easy defaults and unlocks in Shibuya Cho, while Acebats is just straight into Suas.
They're gonna go for your air 4 Chuo, probably.
Yeah, it looks like
Yeah, it's middle square.
is that the only thing that's in Chuo? But it is a pretty quick. Oh no, there's Grind 10 as well, which isn't as quick. I believe that spawns in Nows. So I would be surprised to see Nago commit to getting Grind as well while they're here. I think air is just the big priority here. Okay, so Sua's entrance picked up by Bats, which is on that column 2 bingo that you pointed out. Nice, quick, easy default if you've got the movement for it, which he does. And yeah, it looks like he's just setting up to threaten this bingo right off the bat here. And maybe force Nago into doing a Sua's Graffiti as a response. Yeah, I'm curious to see just how long Nago spends in Shibuya, because it's a good, strong start to the game, but it doesn't really set you up for any bingos or graffiti or anything like that. You've got the Chuo Air as the center square, so it's strategically strong. Shibuya Kabi is quick, but other than that, it's not strategically very, very powerful. You've got Chuo Grind and Dogen Air on the column 5, which I think doesn't suck, but then you've got FRZ and SDPP on that bingo as well, so I don't know, there's a lot that goes into it, and after yesterday's match, Krabby talked a little bit about threatening bingos that aren't necessarily the fastest, which is how he played against Kev. Just because if you're threatening a bingo where all the squares are pretty fast, there's a better chance that your opponent reads that and picks up the fast squares. So maybe the column 5 isn't too difficult if that's what Nago wants to go for. Seeing Acebats trying to climb the sewers here, but having a little bit of trouble with that first jump. It's fine. He didn't go for the bottom point tricks or catwalk though, so he's not setting up for that column 2. Just trying
to figure out what Nago is planning to do.
Yeah, I think at this point maybe you just kind of.
I probably would have left Cubby for later on.
Yeah, it's always a curious one because if people are going to go head to head on Cubby, you want to be the one to get it, right? But at the same time, Bats didn't even go to Shibuya, which Nago doesn't know until Bats marks the square. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like just going for Shibuya Cubby if it's there is fine, but there are some like deeper mind games that you could go into and hold off on it. But now Nago has picked up Dogen Rite of Street, and there's Air 3 on the board as well, which is a bit more of a time commitment because there is the picking up the tape and then going back down the high street for it.
I love seeing people go for this soul.
No, Bats.
Oh, what the heck?
Wait, can he save this?
What?
It's good. It's good.
Since when could you do that?
FRZ just works, I guess.
That's weird. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I think I might have seen that before, but it's a pretty good backup for if you miss the initial drop down. Oh,
Yeah,
damageless
cool.
strat, actually. That's a good point by Krabby. Yeah, that may have been intentional by Bats, just kind of the way he knows how to do it from playing damageless. So Nago picked up 4 squares in Shibuya Cho off the start, and is now into Benton Cho onto Dark Side, where we have... There's 99th Graffiti, but obviously I don't think it's going to be a priority. SDP points, Sky Dino default, Floating Pink Half Pipe, Shout Out to Daft, Grind 20 as well in SDPP, so the later levels in Benton Cho are pretty stacked. And Bats now looks like he's leaving Kogane. He didn't really get too much out of his time there. I'm surprised he didn't commit more to what was there, given that, you know, there's 2 bottom point souls on a column 2. There's the Sewers Graffiti, which, I mean, he was never really that far into Sewers because he didn't get the climb. So I suppose there's no real point.
There are 2
respraying it.
Sewers souls there. So.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if he'd hit the climb first time,
Yeah.
he would have committed harder to Sewers, but just knowing that he messed it up, maybe he just didn't want to commit the extra time to it and would rather go elsewhere. So now they're both on Dark Side. So they're
Looks
going
like
to go
Nago's
head
gonna
for the
get
first time.
SDPP points and half pipe. Yeah.
Yeah, and Nago hasn't revealed their position until they pick up those souls, so Bats... I mean, this is a pretty low-cost move from Bats here. Like, he doesn't have to commit really very hard, because it won't be long before Nago picks up any of those souls, and then Bats knows where they are. Looks like Bats is actually going into Sky Dino and not bothering with anything in STPP, so
yeah,
actually...
Grind 20's there as well. That's going to be 3 souls for Nago.
Yeah, it depends if they choose to pick up all of them, though. So far, they've been kind of just taking the highest priority squares in their eyes, I suppose, because, you know, there was Grind in Chuo, and they were in Chuo, and they didn't pick it up. There was Air and Dogen, and they didn't pick that up when they were there. They're just going for what is fastest to keep up the momentum. So we'll see if they go for everything in STPP, or if they continue just to pick up what they deem to be the highest priority squares. I feel like there comes to a point where you just want to amass board control and get as many squares as you can, but not sure when that point in the game is going to be for these two. So yeah, Bats now in Sky Dino is going to pick up the default. And that reveals him on the map now, so Nago knows that the 2 of them are going to be head-to-head in this side of the map. Pretty good movement from Bats through Sky Dino here to pick up both defaults. And the
I
curious
feel like
thing...
that was smart for Bats to come Dark Side, so Nago wouldn't have like all this free reign to grab all those Dark Side souls.
Yeah, this was a really good read by Bats from going from Kogane straight into Sky Dino and not stopping off in SDPP for anything, before Nago had even revealed that they were in SDPP. Yeah, a good read by Bats, and this is a really, really close game. It's been a 1 point in it, really, for the entire game up until this point. And it's really hard to see who's going to come out on top here when it comes to board control. You know, Nago is still threatening the column 3, and still has row 2, row 5 available, but neither of the diagonals are available for either player. Bats' control, I feel, is a little bit lacking. Just the squares that he has are a bit more spread across the board, but he still can threaten the column 1. And that's actually it. That's the only bingo that he can threaten. So this game may come down to Graffiti in terms of
Oh, he's not even gonna
getting the points.
go for Highway 0.
What is there on Highway 0? Just a default
Soda and
Soda.
Left Alley.
Yeah, it's not particularly fast. I think there's priority elsewhere on the board. I still think Kogane is really strong. We might see both players just head out to Kogane here. Didn't see which way Nago was
Oh yeah,
heading.
Nago's
Highway
going for
0.
the block.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's probably worth locking away Acebats' last possible bingo here. Commitment of just picking up a default in Highway 0 is pretty worth it, I feel. That means that Nago is going to be quite far out on the map, though, when it comes to contesting Bats for whatever comes next. But Bats is actually back into Shibuya Cho. I feel like Kogani is more the play here. Is Bats really trying to stack up this this bingo with Hikage tricks? No, surely not. Because he would have just gone to Highway 0, right? So he's into Shibuya for Tricks 25. I think he's just picking up what he feels is... Oh, he has column 2 available as well. I don't know why I didn't see that. Yeah, the interesting thing here is, can he pick up Tricks 25 and then get out to Kogane while Nago is in Soda Race? This might be really good for Bats. He might be just way ahead to this column 2 bingo if he can pick up this and then get to Kogane.
Soda.
Yes, this Soda play is a real surprise. It's not too long, but you're spending so much time in Highway 0. Really, there's not much priority once you've denied the column 1 bingo. Yeah, I just feel like this is a really good position for Bats to be in if he then goes for the column 2 bingo. It means Sua's Graffiti is on the board, but he should have a big advantage to it. This is a really interesting, strong strategic game so far. And let me see, for Nago, I think they just have the column 2, column 3, row 2, column 3 bingos available. One of those hinges on Sua's Graffiti, and the others... so row 2 has 3 Suas. Yeah, this is interesting. Like, this is not an easy column 3 for Nago with Sua's Grind and RDH platform. Given that Bats is already into Kogane-cho. Yeah, it feels like Bats has the tempo advantage on the board right
he's
now.
not grabbing the RDH default. Oh, no.
I don't think he needs it.
It's
you can get
column
Sua's
3.
Grind 10.
Oh, well, yeah, that too. Well, let's see
He
if
just
he
goes straight into
Sua's,
Sua's, but no, he's going into bottom point. Okay. He does have the tempo advantage here. He can force Nago to respond in certain ways, but he might be being a little bit greedy with the amount of time that he has here. Just given that Nago is in Highway 0, that means they are pretty much as far away from the action as they could be right now. Bats does have some time to work with, but I don't know. I feel like Grind 10 is not too terribly hard to get in Suas. It's a quick unlock, it's a pretty quick collect if you get the jump.
You can get Tricks 50 as well.
Skips. Yeah. I mean, there is plenty on the board for Bats here. It's just really closing out this advantage that he has, I feel, is going to be important.
Oh yeah, he's going for it.
And then there's 99th Graffiti is still on the board, but neither player really wants anything to do with that right now. And it may actually end up becoming important for Nago if Bats manages to convert on what he has here, but he spent so much time in bottom point at this point, I'm not sure how much of an advantage he really has now.
Oh, Nago maybe going for the block, maybe? Yep.
So the thing is about blocking this column 2 is it's Sua's Graffiti and bottom point tricks, and Bats is going to pick up bottom point tricks right now, which means Nago has to start Sua's Graffiti. They have a slight advantage, but it's Sua's Graffiti. Execution goes like a million miles when it comes to that graffiti route. And though I know that Nago is really confident in Sua's, it's an area that they're particularly strong at. You know, mistakes can be made, and though Nago maybe has, you know, the best part of a minute advantage over Bats on this route, it could still change.
I feel like the swole play would be Bats grabbing these 2 Sewer Souls and just leaving. And maybe getting everything else.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe Bats doesn't contest the graffiti at this point. Maybe he just goes for the souls, blocks Nago's bingo, and then goes out to everywhere else on the map. I think still very much a play that he could choose to make here. See just how exactly he reads this. Now we're going to attempt Sua's level 1 climb. This is inordinately difficult.
I'm praying he goes for the souls instead.
Struggling really with this first level climb. I feel like you just go the vanilla way. Don't be an apologist. So both players now in the sewers, and yeah, with the advantage that Nago now has because Bats spent too much time in bottom point for my liking, that means they're out ahead to the souls and the graffiti. Bat still has the possibility to block one soul. All he needs to do is block one of these souls. Pick up one of them and then block the bingo. But no, he's really struggling with this sewers movement at the moment, and that may cost him everything. Because now Nago is coming to pick up grind, which means the only thing that Bats can now contest
Can't even
is
cling
tricks.
onto the roll.
This is not great for Bats.
Seeing a dog struggle in sewers.
Yeah, okay, well, with Nago revealing now, it's two bingos that are being threatened, with the column 3 on the board as well. I think Bats may just take the L in sewers, head out, block the potential column 3 with RDH, and then go everywhere else on the map. By everywhere else, it's Dogen Air, Kage Tricks 99th Graffiti, which is 5 points, plus the RDH, which is 6, which puts him at 14, which means Nago with sewers, Graffiti, and Tricks just wins the game. So yeah, it's unfortunate, because this was a really strong game from Bats up until this point, but that sewers movement just really destroyed him.
Even if Bats gets everything else.
Yeah, I mean, if he dips on Kugani entirely, that means I think Nago just wins the game. Nago picking up Graffiti and sewers plus sewers Tricks would be a Graffiti plus a bingo, which is, 8 points plus the 3. It's like they pick up like 8 points off of that, which I think just wins the game.
Oh yeah, they're gonna get the bingo. Dang. Poor Bats.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, because strategically, I think this was a really sound game from Bats, and it was really, really close for the longest time. Just that final call of going to bottom point and then losing the advantage that he had, and then coupled with the sewers movement, it's just this game slipped away from him. But a strong showing still though from Acebats, and keeping Nago like really, really close in this game. Curious to see maybe a different board that isn't so sewers heavy in game 2 for Bats. Might be a little bit better. And again, it might be just having a moment, and just maybe he'll recover for game 2, and his sewers movement, if it's required, won't be so bad. Yeah, so unfortunate for Bats here. There's just not enough points on the board for him to win from where he is on the map. With Hikage Tricks, Dogen Air, and even with 99th Graffiti, that would be not enough to win. Nago should be finishing off the sewers Graffiti route before too terribly long. This might even be the last spray, actually. Just 3 more to go.
Just got the 100-meter room.
Oh, of course, yeah. The legendary 100-meter room. Is this the first time we've seen 100-meter room in any context in Season 4? It might be, actually. I think we had Sewers Special on a board, but I don't think it was out. I don't think anyone went for it.
How could they?
Yeah, it's really not the best square to go for unless you absolutely have to.
I would pay someone to go for Sewer Special for the first square.
Yeah, the thing about the sewers is it's pretty quick route if you do it well. There's just so much room for failure, and like one mistake can cost you the entire route if you're going head to head with someone. Just the fact that you can fall all the way down from the top, it's incredibly punishing. But this has been really clean from Nago, kind of as expected. One of our resident sewers experts.
Nerd.
But yeah, unfortunately for Acebats, this one is all but decided now as Nago finishes the 100-meter room climb. You know, there was always the qualification that Nago's Xbox could still explode, the Bingo Classic. But I think this one's done. That's just kind of cleaning up what he can on the board here. Did he commit all the way to Dogen for this? Or did he go backwards? I wasn't watching.
Honestly, I wasn't paying attention either. I was just looking at Nago climb for 10 minutes.
Wait, he's going back, so does this mean he missed the tape?
Oh, no.
I suppose he came in from Shibuya, right? Yeah. He came in from Shibuya because he was in Hikage. So he went kind of the default way around Dogen to pick up the tape, which I don't know if that's faster. I mean, maybe going to Garage and then into Shibuya is faster, but at this point, it's kind of moot.
Bingo.
But yeah, big bingo for Nago with the Sewers Graffiti. 18 points on the board. That wins game 1 for Nago. But it was a tense affair for the longest time. Really, really close between these two players. Yeah, excited to see what game 2 has for us.
That was a sneaky row too. I didn't notice it until like Bats to the left, Sewers, after missing the movement.
So I might have been a little bit critical about Nago's strategy in the early stages of the game. I think going for the early defaults certainly made plenty of sense. But then it kind of dawned on me at some point during this game that this is kind of what Krabby has been talking about and the way that Krabby was playing yesterday, which is just setting up these sneaky bingos and not even necessarily threatening them until you can clinch them. I called it kind of the Tetris strategy yesterday, where you're just setting up different things across the board and then it all kind of comes together all at once and your opponent has very little time to respond. This is really good bingo from Nago, but Bats kept it close for a very long time, and maybe with a little bit of better execution and one different decision when it came to Kogane routing, Bats could have clinched that game. So 1-0 for Nago, but game 2 still could be anyone's game. Let's see here. We've got the board for game 2. Looks like our players are ready, so we're just going to get straight into it. This time around, we have lots of graffiti, but they're quick routes. You've got Dogen, Chuo, Bottom Point, and Highway Zero. We may finally get a graffiti-focused board for the first time this season. And then we got, let me see, what good bingos have we got here? We got Highway Zero, and then triple Kogane, double Kogane, double Shibuya, and then Highway Zero graffiti.
Column 5 is decent.
Column 5 looks pretty good.
Boogie
Yeah,
unlock is kind of random.
Yeah, the Boogie is like the one that puts me off of that, and that makes me look at row 2 instead. Like, if you're going to Kibo for Boogie, you might as well get Air 4, and then you've got Top Stations quick. Air 8 in FLZ is not too bad, and then you've got a default in Dogen. Feels like row 2 is a pretty good bingo. We got a nice diagonal top left to bottom right as well, with default in Dogen and Sewers, plus Sewers Tricks, plus Dogen Grind, and then bottom point graffiti center square. Bottom point graffiti could be huge this game. Center square, fast graffiti route could be really, really important moving into the next game. We got Jazz for the first time in what feels like the entire season. Unfortunately, with only 4 squares in Benton, it's not looking like she's going to be a particularly high priority this time around. Let's see, though, as our players get started for game 2. Yep, as expected,
Dogen.
Bats heading out to Dogen. I think...
Well, they're both going Dogen.
Yeah, I think there's definitely enough here.
Bats has the lead, though.
I'll be curious to see if anyone goes tape, because there's grind 10 on the board, there's 2 defaults. I feel like going for the tape is maybe just not the play if you're going head-to-head here, but equally you don't know if your opponent's going to be here. So yeah, it looks like they're both not taking any risks, both respecting their opponent's ability to read the board and going into Dogen to start. Looks like Bats has the slight advantage here, had better movement through Garage to get to Dogen, and should be able to pick up the first default here. Now I'm curious to see, does Nago bail? Actually, Nago is the one who gets it, so stream delay...
Wait, oh, damn.
Yeah, stream delay playing into
and they're going for graffiti too.
And Nago's just immediately starting up the graffiti. Bats is here as well. Bats also spraying.
But Nago missed that whole first half, but they're going to come back for the tape souls, so...
Yeah, this is a really interesting kind of routing between the two of them in Dogen, because Nago skipped the early sprays to get the defaults, and is now starting up the graffiti. Bats started up the graffiti from the start of the route, meaning he doesn't have to go back around again. So this could still be anyone's game, and nobody knows what Bats is doing right. As we take a intermission for ads. Thanks, Twitch. Really appreciate you. Eat spicy goodness like a boss, etc., etc. Shout outs to Green Giant. So Bats is at the top of the level right now. Curious to see... I mean, we did miss something, but given that he went back, does that mean he went back to the top of the level? Went back around to the end of the level, took tape? Couldn't possibly tell
Wait,
you
did
what
he
Bats
really
did.
do that? That's wild.
Yeah, because I mean, we saw him doing the first couple of sprays in the level, and then when we came back from our ad break, he was still in that area. So I'm assuming in that time maybe he went and got the tape so that he could get grind. But this is
Nago dipped.
yeah, this is really interesting because this is certainly a rough start for Bats, getting sniped to both the defaults and now being committed to Dogen. But Nago just did a quick lap around Dogen and then bailed. Didn't finish the graffiti, but could come back and do it at any point. So it looks like Bats may just fully commit to this. And now
Yeah, at least
Nago
he's
is
gonna
out.
get the spray and Dogen grind ton, so not
Yeah,
that bad.
so it's not the end of the world for Bats. In fact, he comes out with more points here. He's just going to be behind on momentum in these early stages of the game. And now we see Nago is in Chuo. What do we have in Chuo? We've got Cubby, we've got Graffiti here as well. And then south of Hayashi, so 2 defaults, as well as the Graffiti. And Air 4 is a really quick tape solve. So lots of stuff here in Chuo Street for Nago to pick up. See how much progress they make with the Graffiti. They're not free-spraying this part of the level. I don't think you necessarily need to. You're going to get back around to this point in the level anyway. But they're going to unlock Air 4 and then likely pick up the 2 defaults for a very quick 3 points in Chuo Street, putting them out to a really, really strong early lead, which Bats will be able to pretty much match. I think it will be 5 points to 5 when the 2 of them are finished with this area. But again, it does feel like maybe Nago is just a little bit ahead in terms of momentum right now.
I wonder why they left. Instead of just finishing the graffiti.
I think it's just a matter of the fact that Bats has not marked a single square on the board yet.
Oh yeah.
Nago may be assuming that they just sniped Bats to Dogen stuff and that there's a realistic possibility that Bats is in Dogen still, doing the graffiti. You know, we're 4 minutes into the game and Bats hasn't marked a square. So I think maybe Nago is just making the read that Bats is stuck in Dogen and just making a point of not committing to that graffiti route if they don't need to. They get out ahead and they pick up a bunch of points, you know, an equal amount of points for being in Chuo as they would for finishing the graffiti route. So I think mathematically it's a pretty strong play from Nago. He does manage to finish his first square of the game, the Dogen graffiti. Keeps him in the running in terms of points for the time being. Gets the tape this time and should be able to pick up grind. So that'll put him at 4 points. So yeah, it's just slightly behind in terms of points, but you know, like Nago is done with Shibuya Show now and is out in Kogane Show, and is just kind of way ahead in terms of board control and momentum right now. So what is it that Nago is heading for?
This board is getting
That's
really weird.
such cool. I really like that movement to get top station from Nago. It's really cool. So then we've got top station in RDH. We've got a bunch of stuff in bottom point as well as the graffiti route. By a bunch of stuff, I mean there is the graffiti and the default that are on the same row. And then there's so much in the rest of Kogane Cho as well. So points 40k in RDH picked up by Nago. That's the Zolbro from Bats. Let's go.
Middle square?
That actually gets him out ahead of Nago into sewers now. That Zolbro unironically might be the difference in bottom point graffiti if that's where the 2 of them go. That was huge from Bats.
Well, Nago does know all the graffiti routes, so let's see who gets this one.
Yeah, I think in terms of like bingo specific game knowledge, I think Nago has more of that than Bats. And that may be the difference here. But bottom point is a relatively straightforward route, and I think Bats knows it well enough that he'll be able to execute it to the efficiency that's required. And we know that Nago does have a little bit of stream delay, so this could be even closer than we think. Bats does pick up the default first, though. And they are now spraying simultaneously on our screen, which would give Nago a slight advantage. But Bats does at least manage to pick up the default.
They're committing.
Oh, we got a race. This has been a really good game of bingo so far. I'm hoping for a Bats win here so that we get a game 3.
Oh no.
It was a rough start to this game from Bats, but I don't think he's completely out of it yet. He just, I say, would really need to clinch this bottom point graffiti route, which it looks like Nago is now ahead on. And there's no way of Bats knowing that Nago's here as well, because he beat Nago to the default. Nago marked RDH stuff, so you know there's an assumption that can be made, but you know you're not working with perfect information. If there's so much other stuff that's on the
God,
board,
vision too strong.
yeah, there's so much other stuff on the board in Kogane that you can assume that that there's a very good chance that Nago is pretty much in sewers. Let me see, there's some stuff in FRZ as well. At a certain point, though, you're going to realize that none of that stuff has been marked, so Nago is likely here in bottom point, but even then, you don't know who's ahead.
I love Acebats medium.
Yeah, it's great. Shout outs to Acebats Graffiti, the highlight
Nago
of
is
Season 4.
way ahead. This is definitely going to get the bingo.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, it's rough because I didn't even see the diagonal bingo that was being threatened here until you mentioned it.
And it's a graffiti bingo. Oh,
it's a graffiti bingo, which is really just Nago capitalizing on that early advantage in the most efficient manner possible. Just managing to snipe Bats to that early Dogen stuff, and then Bats being stuck in Dogen and committing to the graffiti route because he needed points from somewhere. And then Nago just immediately taking that time that they had to run with this game straight to a decisive lead, if not victory. There's still plenty of graffiti on the board, but it means no more bingos for Bats. If this diagonal gets locked in, it most likely will, as Bats does make a slight fumble here in PJ Room 3. Is this Room 3? I think. But yeah, Nago should be able to lock in this bottom point graffiti here, and that is pretty huge in putting Nago ahead in this game. Yeah, and honestly, like, I think Bats played pretty much as well as he could given the situation. You know, some slight mechanical mishaps notwithstanding, I think his judgment wasn't too bad given the hand that he was dealt. You know, like, you're stuck in Dogen, you might as well finish the graffiti, but you're just going to have to take the L in terms of you are now behind on the board. But he went exactly where he needed to be after that. It's just, he just didn't, just wasn't fast enough really to do what he needed to do. And now Nago out of bottom point into sewers with a monumental lead in this game. 9 points, no bingos available for Bats. We still have Highway Zero graffiti, we still have Chuo graffiti on the board, which means that mathematically Bats still has a chance, but yeah, he's very much playing from behind. Bats is actually calling GG here. I'm not sure if they're going to stop playing, but yeah, with a 10-point lead for Nago right now, there's still enough points on the board for Bats to come back in this, but it's a tall order. Really, really strong opening play there from Nago. We'll see if they keep playing this one out. Yeah, this is one of the changes that we made for Season 4. Given that 1v1 bingo tends to take a little bit longer, we've allowed players to say GG and call it when the game is mathematically over. This game's not mathematically over, but it looks like neither of the players are going to play this one out. Really, really strong Game 2 opening there from Nago. Yeah, and that decides it. A 2-0 win for Nago. I've gone on record saying this several times in bingo history, but that was a close 2-0. Game 2 looks really decisive from Nago, but it really was just kind of the way that the chips fell. Bats did the best with what he had in Game 2, but yeah, really, really strong opening from Nago.
Yeah, Bats had good openings.
Yeah, I think in terms of like the quality of the game that Bats put out, it was very strong. The strategy was good. I think he went to the right places at the right times. He was aware of his win conditions, and Game 1 was really, really close. But this one, unfortunately, not quite so much. But we do have Nago, our winner, our 2-0
Hello.
Europe leader.
I'm in fact here.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. I was
Yeah, so you might have heard us singing your praises for that game too. Opening. Very, very strong. Honestly, a little unfortunate for Bats. Just the way that the chips fell in Dogan, his
Yeah.
particular position on the board when he got sniped to the first soul, and then the subsequent decisions that the both of you made really just fell in your favor. But credit to you where it's due for taking that momentum and running with it straight to that
Yeah.
diagonal bingo. That's actually was pretty much even with you in bottom point graffiti, but your execution was better, and you clinched it there. And yeah, you took the lead early and just never let up.
Yeah, I just like I considered like trying to like really, I don't know, like try and like play really like safely and just try to like, you know, like win like in the end game or whatever. But after game one, like I feel like my routing in game one was pretty decent after like the start. Like my starting play wasn't that great. But then I got like the the double bingo like threatened with with the sewers all the sewer souls. So it worked out, but like I don't know, like I didn't see the column 2 bingo that that Acebats was going for, and I was like, okay, I'm just not seeing like things on the board properly. So I just decided for game 2 to just go super aggressive.
Yeah, it was two very different
yeah.
styles of game. Like we got kind of game 1 was the crabby school of like Tetris bingo where you set everything up, and knock it all down all at once, and then game 2 was season 3 Team Fortress.
Yeah, it just like I don't know, like I don't know. I didn't feel like I don't know. The first game just felt so iffy. Like I was just like, all right, I tried to play solid, and I was close to like if it wasn't for the fact that I knew that Acebats would never go for Sewers Graffiti, like just like call my bluff and go for Sewers Graffiti, like I would have potentially lost. So I was just like, okay.
That was pretty much the decisive point in that game. Like, it was very, very close up until As entered Sewers and was like, I'm not doing Sewers Graffiti, I'm going to bottom point. And then he left bottom point behind you in Sewers and then had some issues with Sewers movement, and that pretty much just closed the game out there.
Yeah.
Like, I think Bat's opening in game 1 was really, really strong. It was a very close game.
It was definitely
good.
Point
in it up until that point, the whole time.
Yeah, I thought it was
showing.
I forgot that, or like I don't know. I for some reason thought that he was gonna go and play slightly more aggressively and try to contest me in like Shibuya Cho and stuff. But I feel like in retrospect, I feel like it was actually kind of obvious that he was gonna go just straight to Kogane, because I thought about going Kogane first, but I was like, but then like maybe he goes for the fast souls and then he just chips away at like the Kogane stuff that I can't get, kind of like how Krabby would approach the game. But
yeah, I mean, I know that
Acebats
Bats has
Krabby,
watched a
so.
lot of Krabby gameplay. That's the thing. Is,
yeah.
I know that, yeah, the two of them, I'm not sure they necessarily share strategy, but I think there's definitely a degree of influence that goes on there, and that goes into your mind as well when you're thinking about who you're playing. And we talked a little bit yesterday about kind of playing to your opponent instead of just playing like what is the mathematically correct play, you know, or like the best bingo strategy. There is a degree of like playing to your opponent and understanding how they play and their own strengths and weaknesses, which I think you implemented in this game. But yeah, this is a really interesting series because there was a lot of different bingo strategies that were being implemented all at once. Definitely worth a rewatch. Really enjoyed this one.
I think it's one thing that is like important to remember in bingo is that like as much as like there's, you know, like a quote unquote like there isn't really like an optimal way of routing because it all purely depends on the decision making of your opponent. And like sometimes like this like how I completely approach game 2 differently, like it makes it also less predictable what you're gonna do, because it means that like game 1 I like basically didn't really contest Acebats until the very end, and now like I was like, he's gonna go Dogan, but he's probably gonna go for Graffiti first, so I'm gonna go and like get past statue and get the 2 souls, and then just use that as like a starting point for a bingo.
Yeah, that was really
which is, like,
interesting.
different
The way that
approach.
played out, because you immediately like skipped the first few sprays. You went in, you wanted the defaults. You started spraying once you'd already dropped down, and then Bats, upon getting sniped, stopped, turned around, and started spraying the start of the level. And then
I
there was a
see.
brief ad intermission, so we don't know exactly what he did, but we assumed he went back around to the start of the level to pick up the tape or something, which I don't think he did in the end. I'm not sure quite what he did in that time. But yeah,
Yeah.
he spent quite a lot of time at the start of the level spraying everything, which gave him obviously the advantage on the graffiti. But then you dipped. You said, "I'm not going to finish this graffiti. I want to be elsewhere on the board."
Yeah.
Even though you only had a few sprays left to do, they were right at the opposite end of the level from where you were leaving.
Yeah.
So yeah, your decision there to just drop it, let him have it, and then go out and pick up points elsewhere. Like going into Chuo after that, you picked up like the same amount of points for the same commitment of time, basically.
Yeah, I think I was kind of doubting if he was actually doing Dogen graffiti. Like I kind of got Chuo Air 4 and like I thought about getting Cubby purely because I thought that maybe he was like going somewhere else or maybe he got sniped and left Dogen. Like because it was kind of iffy with like we started bottom point graffiti at the same time, so I was a bit worried, but I was kind of just hoping that my execution would be better, but also like I had more squares, so like I think there were like other bingos that like I could potentially go for that like would make his life really shitty because they were like
Yeah, this was
Because,
a
I
really
mean,
interesting board because of the 4 graffitis.
yeah
I was thinking maybe finally get a match where graffiti makes an appearance like really early in the game, and we did, to be fair, because there were quick routes, but it didn't make much of a difference in the end, which is a little
Yeah.
disappointing. Also,
yeah.
you really showed the power of board control in this game.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Bats picks up 3 points from the graffiti, but in that time you picked up 3 squares in Chuo, which give you massive board control.
Yeah, like
Or
it
2
was-
squares in Chuo.
Yeah,
But-
I considered doing the Dogen graffiti route. I just didn't end up doing it purely because that diagonal was there. Like if it wasn't for that diagonal, like I would have probably just done graffiti. But honestly, the big reason I went for that route as well was because it wasn't past statue that you needed to get for the bingo. You need to get isolated platform. So it was like if it was just isolated platform, it's like a really risky bingo. But because you also get past statue, you get 2 points, and it's like, all right, like there's a little bit less risk because I get points and board control, as opposed to like if I get sniped, my life just ends because I'm stuck in Dogen and there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, 3 points for graffiti or 2 points for the souls, and then getting out faster. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
All right.
it was-
Well, thanks for your insight.
Yeah, thank you.
Really, really good game of bingo. Thoroughly enjoyed that one. Tomorrow we have 7th Ace's first game of the tournament up against Ryomi, and that'll be starting at like 9
Wait,
p.m.
what?
Eastern. No, sorry, it's Soldi.
Soldi.
Soldi. It is 7th Ace versus Soldi. 9 p.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. British summertime. Yeah.
Oh no,
I might actually be able to watch that one.
I will be asleep.
I was gonna say I'd have to beat my old teammate's ass.
I mean, it's going to happen at some point.
Shoutouts to Acebats McDonald's ads, by the way.
Yeah. Very on brand.
Oh,
But yeah, thank you all for joining us. And we will see you. Some people will see you. I won't. I'll probably be in bed, but I might not be. We'll see. See you for bingo tomorrow.